that's a lot of build-up. Come on, let's get to that drop. There we go. Yes, it's the apocalypse. The robots have taken over after coronavirus.
That was obnoxious.
Wasn't it? That was the loud as hell. What's not helping is completely due to the fact that I am not at my house right now. I'm house sitting for a house right next to mine, and they gave me a go ahead to kind of just crash here if we get cabin fever. Which, yeah, is a good thing, but I always have to make sure that I'm not bringing anything, specific.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Are
So
you having cabin fever?
just a teeny bit, like we talked about it a little bit when we talked, how like one of the reasons I felt like talking is because I'm like, I gotta hear a voice. I need to hear a voice that isn't my family.
I thought you were going to say, I need to hear a voice that's not the one in my head.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that one too. But that one I'm kind of okay. He has good ideas.
Sure.
Burn it all. No, that's why, like, when we did Animazing, I'm like, it felt so good to hear Ben and Lewis because I haven't heard them in like over a month by this point. Yeah, we did like one show right before the full like lockdown happened, and like I just hadn't been watching that anime Ben gave me to watch, so we kept pushing the show back over and over again.
Okay, well, at least the audio quality is good now,
Yeah, no, we're not gonna have to worry about any skipping because we are not on this computer. Yeah, no, we're good. We've been recording actually.
No, hello.
So people heard all the incriminating evidence about Linda in the Valley and what the underground trading rink we have going on. Yeah, no, there's a lot of incriminating evidence on here.
All you, no association.
Please, who do you think's funding everything? One of us is still employed.
It's not me.
Everything. You're like, I have better shit to do than freaking than freaking fund some like illegal crap. I got video games to play.
Yeah, and play I have. I've actually been playing something that I never thought I'd be playing, but since I have the absolute amount of time for it to do it, I am. I'm actually playing Final Fantasy 14, the MMO.
You mean 15 or online?
No, 14. 14's an MMO. 15 is the emo boy band with flying car.
Oh, son of a bitch! Now you're making me want to like buy an account because that thing's crossplay.
Is it? Even so, it's a very, 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 very slow game.
I know,
the start of it.
Daniel. I played it for like a few weeks.
What, the MMO?
Yeah, Final Fantasy 14. Remember, I told you I bought it like around Christmas. But I just used it up past the. I just used it up past the the trial period, and then I'm like, that was okay. Maybe if I feel like I really, really want to go back to it, I'll probably buy a membership. But right now, it's the disc and the download code. They're all in my PS4.
Well, there was a sale for the PC version that came with everything, all the expansions, everything, and it came with 30 days for like $36. So
Fuck.
I decided, you know what? I keep hearing
It's a good time.
from people that this is worth the time investment if you can get through the beginning slog. So.
Oh yeah.
So I've been trying it. I am still unconvinced that it's worth the investment. But I hope the story picks up that it'll not be so. We'll see.
Yeah, and I mean I'm glad that they're starting to experiment with things too. Like there's going to be a series of raid story missions for Near Automata written by the director, and like the first one came out and people so far are like, this is some really trippy stuff.
Oh, I actually saw there's a lot of people that play it that I know, so I actually saw someone stream it.
Yeah.
And I saw the amount of work that went into that raid, and it very much looks like the first prologue mission I played of Nier,
Yeah.
but made for an MMO, and I'm like, well, no.
I know it looks really good, but man, there's so many
That's really hard to play. It's really hard to do that content.
Yeah, and like the thing is too that the whole thing how there's a 2B unit, but it's like with brown hair and a white dress. I that guy I showed you a year ago, Clems, he did a video talking about like Nier, and there was mentions of the 2P like in one of the books, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, this guy built an entire universe for this one game that he is probably not going to do any follow-up for.
I mean, there is that new Nier game coming out.
No. That is basically the game that came out in 2011, but there was like some Pokemon Sword and Shield stuff going on. It's a HD remaster.
I heard it's the original Japan storyline, which wasn't localized to put over here because they changed it when they sent it over here.
Yeah, well, the thing is that what the creator did is he made the same story with differences in it, and one of the big major differences is there's one called Nier Gestalt, which is the one we got, where you play as this older man and you lose your daughter, and then in this other game, Replicant.
It's a brother and sister, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah. I know a bit about it. I don't know a whole lot, but that's what I heard, and I'm like, neat.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna check it out. I just hope the gameplay is better than what it was when it came out, because up until Automata, like none of his games were good gameplay wise, because they always had bugs and crashes and frame rate issues.
It looks like he had the budget for Automata. But anyways, games aside,
yeah,
we are here to talk about...
We are here to talk about movie stuff, because this is Busted Musket Productions' still unnamed movie show. We'll get a name one day, possibly after Corona. If we survive Corona, then anything can happen. But yeah, I'm here with Dan, once again, who is one of those few people that have a job that can be done at home, so he has been very busy with work, or else I probably would have made him do this weekly, but you gotta respect other people's tone, and it's less work on me too, not doing this weekly, so I'm all for it.
Yeah, so, what movie news do we have?
Right, so did you take a look at that article I gave you about the Fear Street movie?
I did. I don't know much about R.L. Stein, so you're going to have to go more in depth with that.
Yeah, so as we all know, R.L. Stein is a very famous writer, primarily in the 90s and even like early, late 80s, where we all know him for Goosebumps, but Goosebumps, which had a movie in 2015 that was really good, and then it was followed up with a 2018 movie that I swear I don't remember it already. Like, it was such a forgettable movie that
Didn't we see that?
No, we saw the first movie. We never saw the second one. The second.
Oh, we saw the first one, yeah.
Yeah, the second one was about like two little kids find Slappy. Like, they accidentally open a book and then Slappy comes out. And then the whole thing is like, oh, I'm going to be your friends and we're going to be a happy family. And what I'm doing in the background, though, is I'm horribly maiming people who are hurting my family. Like, the daughter has a boyfriend who's cheating on her, and Slappy, like, sneaks up on him in an auditorium and, like, breaks his legs. But then...
So the usual.
Yeah, the usual R.L. Stein stuff. That's one thing I'll give the movies. They weren't afraid to make the monsters violent, because when you read the R.L. Stein books, a lot of them are either inconveniences or just pranksters. Where it's like, oh no, monster blood is everywhere, but now I can't go to the science fair. Like, stuff like that. Occasionally you'll have a monster in the woods that is legit killing or maiming people.
But the science fair.
Yeah, but the science fair and prom is tomorrow. But
Can't forget prom.
actually, prom was a little too young for Goosebumps because all the protagonists in that book were 12. But
And I helped.
yeah, and I helped. But then you have Fear Street, which is a series he wrote in the early 80s, late 80s. And that is, if you want some darker stories, but with the same kind of wonky storytelling that you love from R.L. Stine, you check those out because a lot of them they span from like actual supernatural things like being contacted by a dead relative or two girls switching bodies only to find out that one girl committed a murder and wanted the other girl to take the blame in her body. Or another one that kind of freaked me out, where it's this girl who gets contacted by another girl who claims, "Oh, I'm your best friend," and she's one of those like really obsessive people, like, "I need to be around you. I'm gonna be legit killing or horribly maiming your two best friends so I can have you all to myself, and I'm even gonna date the guys I heard that you dated so I can be you."
Beautiful.
Yeah, but it turned out in 2015 that 20th Century Fox were interested in making a Film Street trilogy, and it finally went into full development by 2017. But one of the reasons I normally don't like bringing up stories that are this old or are in so early in development only to find out that they never come out. But the cool thing is that this movie was supposed to come out in June. So this movie's been filmed, it's made, it's ready to go. But thanks to a certain unnamed virus, it got pushed along with its two other movies that were supposed to come out. So
alongside everything else.
Yeah, alongside everything else. So Daniel, can you so we have a movie we had a movie that was due to come out in June of 2020. But can you tell the audience when the next two films were slated to come out?
No, because I didn't look at that much into it.
Oh, you didn't? It's in the headline.
Oh, I didn't.
Oh,
I think I must have forgotten already.
Mother flipper. The movie, we have a trilogy, people, coming out 1 month after the other. So if Fear Street came out, we would have had a movie in June, then July, and then it would all be wrapped up in the last movie in August.
Oh, okay, now I understand. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, okay. So that was... Wait, that's rather ambitious, isn't it?
Right?
Well, only 1 month apart from one another? They're not even going to let the things breathe in the theater for more than a month? It's like, alright, the next one's there, bye!
Yeah.
If you forgot about it, don't worry about it.
Yeah, well, you know what it kind of reminded me of? It reminded me when the last two Matrix movies came out. One came out in the summer, and the other one came out in October of the same year.
Well, you see, that's different. Like, summer to October, all the money it would have made in theater has been made, period.
Yeah.
As for 1 month, like, yo, what?
Yeah. Well, the thing is, this is why I wanted to bring it up, because this is such, like, a weird thing, and you already brought up all the kind of, like, things people are saying, or the possible issues from it, which is, you don't want to let the movie breathe. You don't want to make sure that this is even going to be a movie people want to see before you put money in a trilogy.
Can you imagine if all three Star Wars movies were made and they would all come out 1 month after the other? The fucking theorists would have to work double time on YouTube to try and predict the next movie.
Yeah. Yeah, all of them would have to be like Matt Pat, where he's like, okay, I'm done with the FNAF theory. Oh, guess what? The 5th game's coming out like in 2 months. Mother flipper.
No, there's another 4 books and another trilogy of books, and I need to read them.
Yeah. And my scary stories to tell in the dark ripoff books have some very important lore in it, too.
Deep lore, not just regular lore.
Yeah, deep lore, like a time-traveling ball pit. But yeah, the thing that what I'm doing right now is I'm trying to get the budget, because there's got to be just like a there's got to be a budget here, but nope. The budget is completely hush hush right now. Motherfucker.
The budget is Blumhouse.
Yeah, it's gotta be like. What I'm thinking is whoever came to 20th Century Fox with the idea that we want to do a freaking Fear Street movie, but we want to guarantee that you guys will that we can get this trilogy out, so we want you guys to help us release it every month. They had to have given them like a super, and I mean a super cheap like budget. Like it.
Here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna give you the budget for one movie, and then you're gonna make 3 90-minute short films.
Yeah.
And then you're gonna see what happens.
Yeah, like they're being pretty shush about what the movie is about. And one of basically the simple synopsis is in 1994, a group of teenagers find out that the terrifying events that have occurred in their town of Shadyside, Ohio, may be connected to each other and that they may be the next targets.
Oh, is that terrifying thing that the 90s are ending?
Yeah. is the terrifying thing that people are looking back at the 90s and realizing you were just the 80s like embarrassing little brother?
Well, that was the realization.
Yeah, that was totally the realization. But another thing is, I don't know if this is still happening, but the girls are still casted. This movie's main protagonists are going to be a lesbian couple. And the thing that kind of really makes me interested in this is the fact that both of them are from different time periods. So, like, one girl is from the 1600s and the other one is from the 90s. And I'm like, what is this movie about?
Wait, the 1600s?
Yeah!
Wait, you lost me already.
Yeah. Like, let me see. They're targeted by crazy horrors in this small town. Oh, okay, here we go. It was reported that Kiana Madeira and Olivia Welch, both very unknown actresses, I actually can't find anything about them,
Okay.
had been cast as gay teenagers trying to navigate the rocky relationship when they're targeted by the crazy horrors of their small town. The two characters are from different time periods, with one being from the mid-90s and the other being from the 1600s.
How the... you know what?
Because I've read quite a few of those, back in high school, I've read quite a few of those Fear Street books. And I cannot remember a single one that actually had a, like, time travel aspect in it. Like, I don't... I'm like you right now. I'm like, I don't know what to say. This just sounds fucking bonkers.
It sounds like you need to go to the theater, or if they decide to home release it, which they probably won't because it'd be like no name thing coming out in this climate. Probably no one would watch it. But yeah. You'd have to go with something in you to be able to take that.
Yeah, and but here's the thing that I wouldn't be surprised, because you did mention like, go to the theater, or maybe they might not home release it. This is being released by the company. Let me pull up the name right now. It's being released by Chernin Entertainment, which a lot of people will remember them as the ones who put out the Planet of the Apes trilogy. They have done a lot of movies for Fox, a lot of them being legitimate hits, while a few of them being like big bombs that were either good movies that bombed or just really bad movies that bombed. But while looking up more information on Fear Street yesterday, because I found this out like at 12 o'clock at night and spent half of the night looking up more info on it, apparently they made a deal to put, there has been no official statement and there has actually been some denying on both ends, but apparently they signed a deal to put some movies on Netflix to have like non-exclusive first dibs or something. So the possibilities there.
Non-exclusive? What do you mean
I
non-exclusive?
don't get it. I don't.
Wait, what? Okay, let me guess. Are they paying to say watch it on Netflix even though it's not exclusive to Netflix?
I have a feeling that might be it. I think you're right.
I think that's what it sounds like to me. When you say non-exclusive rights, it means like, all the advertising will say watch it here. Not saying watch it here first.
Yeah. yeah. They'll be like, you can watch it on Netflix or you can like go to the theaters and pay for it, which maybe when they also mean non-exclusive, it could mean they put it out in the theaters for like a month or two, and then Netflix gets it even before like home release. Because Paramount did something like that with video store rentals, where movies like Paranormal Activity 5 and Scout's Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse, they put their stuff on, what is it that they did again? They put their stuff in theaters, they were on there for a month, and then they were already free to rent, not free, but they were already there to rent on video stores and online services.
They're just like, yeah, might not.
Yeah. But if there's one thing, I really hope this movie has balls, because I want it to be good, and it needs to have better teen dialogue, because Jesus, R.L. Stine could not write... He's okay with kid characters, but he cannot write teenagers to save his life.
Hey, how do you do, fellow kids?
I was about to make that joke. I'm like, it really feels like, like all the kids are adults and they're like, hello, did you see that sports game? Oh, did you see that man? He is quite the handsome fella. Do you think this shoe looks good on me?
Hey, do you want to meet after school?
We could go to the sock hop, restaurant. Jesus, what period are you writing in? This is supposed to be the 90s, right?
Don't worry about it. Let's go to the soda ice cream shop.
Yeah, I'll go get you an egg melt. I will buy you an egg melt. What the fuck is an egg melt? I only remember that from freaking Danny Phantom.
What is avocado toast?
Yeah. What is this kale? It is so good for you. No, but I want it to be good, and I want it to have its teeth, because after this movie,
Scary Stories,
which a lot of people will remember as Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, which was a movie that came out in August and almost got immediately forgotten about. Like, when it came out, there was a lot of like, oh yeah, this movie was really good. Oh, this is a good Star movie for children. And then nobody remembers it.
Because they said for children.
Yeah. But that was the problem that this movie had, is like, it's a PG-13 movie that remembered, oh, wait, these stories were meant for children. So there's a lot of scenes that you could tell were supposed to have very bloody payoffs, with obvious interference from the studio, like, oh, cut that out. Okay, edit this scene differently.
So what you're saying is, like, right as the monster's about to tear this kid limb from limb, you just hear bonk.
Yeah. No, like, they do have some blood. They do have some particularly, like, intense scenes. Like, I think I told you when I gave you, like, my little text review of it. What made this movie great was the fact that the lead up to the actual kills were legitimately scary. Like, everything would turn, as soon as the story would start and the monster would enter the frame, everything got uncanny. Like, when Harold, the scarecrow, is chasing this kid, he's in like a cornfield, and initially in the cornfield you can always see his house and this light in the background. But as soon as Harold is like stalking him, suddenly the cornfield is like, is like miles and miles long, and you can no longer see the light of the kid's house in the background, or a scene where the ghost with no toe is chasing a kid in his house, and it's all blacked out, and you see like shadows on the wall moving as if the entire house is like guiding the creature to where the kid is hiding. It is legitimately some of the best and inspired like horror sequences I have seen in freaking years.
But then it remembers, oh wait, we can't be bloody. Blonk!
Yeah, the pale lady in the hallway after her big scary scene, she just kind of absorbs the kid into his body in a very calming way where the kid doesn't even look like it's hurting him at all. Or, oh, the toe monster catches the kid, but she just drags him under the bed and you don't know what happened to him after that. The only scenes that did have any kind of teeth in it was the scarecrow part, which even then was kind of dumb. The scarecrow stabs the kid with a pitchfork, and the kid turns into a scarecrow because they didn't want to have any blood.
Bonk! That's all I'm gonna say, man.
Yeah. And then, of course, the one scene they couldn't get around and had to show was the spider scene, which that goes without saying that is something you do not want to see again in a PG-13 movie.
I'm guessing that's where they pushed the envelope of a PG-13 movie, because they couldn't get around that.
Yeah, I bet you they had to cut. I bet you they had to cut scenes for the sake of not being too obsessively scary and getting an R rating. So they're like, well, if we cut these out but we leave the spider, will that get us a PG-13? Yeah, just barely. We'll take it. Yeah, like I said, I really like the movie in hindsight, and I will be watching it, and I even own the movie, but I do think people are a little too crazy on it because they're like, oh, this movie was so generic and by the numbers. And I'm like, are you guys forgetting that these stories were adaptations of urban fairy tales and other scary stories that have existed? The only memorable thing about the book were the giants. The stories aren't particularly good, but the giants were the things that scared the fuck out of people.
Look, the drawings were everything. I don't know about you, but them drawings were like, oh my god.
Yeah. But like, you know, for example, if I give you the new edition of Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, where they ripped out all the photos and made them with less threatening photos, the stories aren't going to have a punch. They're not going to creep you out because you're imagining these giants and not the freaking nightmare fuel that this man...
Yeah. I don't know. I've never seen the newer ones, but I definitely can tell you that without the original, without the original freaking stuff, like, you're just not gonna be able to like understand the punch.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, like every time and also another thing with that book is I love how people are like, man, the movie was nothing but jump scares, and I'm like, the book is nothing but jump scares. Do you know how many stories end with, now grab a friend and scream?
Now grab a friend and scream! Ah!
Yeah, now grab your friend and say, I come for you! Ah! Yeah, but, sorry we went off there on a little bit, but, yeah, I hope this movie's good. I hope this bizarre way of putting it out works, but I don't know if I want them to do that with like other movies. Like, I don't want there to be like a new Star Wars film being filmed with the exact same motif. What do you think?
Look, they'd never do it, because can you imagine only having a month to breathe between Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker?
Oh, dude, if they do that, the world would have exploded.
I'm just saying, like, I don't think it's wise because a month after TLJ, people were like, "I'm not buying anything Star Wars ever again," you know?
Yeah, and then they don't see The Last Skywalker because they're like, "Fuck TLJ."
No, that's pretty much what. Like, I don't like this strategy. If you ask me, I just don't like it because it means they have to visibly cut corners because of how risky they need to advertise 3 movies in succession.
Yeah. And you can kind of imagine that a lot of the thing, like TV spots and trailers, it will probably be like Fear Street Part 1 coming out June of 2020 with Part 2 and Part 3 coming out on these dates. Like, one movie will have to be sharing the date for the next 2 and last movie. Like, that's the only way I can see them doing that, is if they keep hitting you on the head that after this movie you have another one in a couple of weeks.
And imagine if the first one bombs. Are you just going to pull out the other 2?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
And then the other 2 get DVD releases because nobody watched the first one.
Yeah, I can totally imagine that might be what happened, because according to them, the only reason I am giving this story any type of day is because they claim they have everything filmed. They started in March and didn't finish until September, which is kind of long for filming a movie with a slightly low budget. Yeah, so I could imagine, like, all 3 movies are made. The first movie bombs horribly, and then the other movies are either going to be like, okay, put them out, and, who the fuck cares? Or maybe this Netflix deal was made in case that happens. Where it's like, okay, Part 1 and Part 2 and Part 3 are going to pop up on Netflix now because no one wanted to see it in theaters.
Watch it on demand because nobody had a demand for it.
Yeah, watch the movies on demand because we didn't know what else to do with it. I mean, it really reminds me of The Interview, when it's like, watch this movie on demand and on Netflix because we might be bombed or have a movie theater shot up by Korean extremists. Yeah, nothing happened.
Is this your movie experience of seeing Joker? It's unlikely than you think.
Yeah. Do you think people are going to freaking go to the movie theaters in clown mask and yell Viva la Joker and shoot up the place? Because I'll let you know. No, that didn't happen. But yeah, that's this story. It's a very interesting experiment, but if it works, I really hope no one else tries to do this, because I am with you. It feels like cutting corners, and we haven't seen a trailer or any form of, like, idea of what kind of effects are going to go in the movie. Is it going to be strictly practical? Is it going to be very low-grade
They don't
horror?
have the budget for practical. They have the budget for TV 1-hour special.
No. Or is it gonna be CG, which the CG might need extra time rendering, so maybe having a movie that comes out 1 month after the other might not be a good idea for all that rendering you have to do? Like, what are they gonna do in this movie?
No, if I know.
Yeah. Oh, well, I guess we'll find out whenever the movie comes out, because it is under Disney now, because it's 20th Century Studios. So just like New Mutants, it's delayed indefinitely.
No, New Mutants thing you were so excited for, and we have no idea.
Yeah, I think it's cursed. I'm pretty sure New Mutants is responsible for the corona.
Oh, okay, sure.
Yeah, but we'll think of it this way. It creates an outbreak, so it has another reason not to come out.
Mm.
Come on. You know I'm right. Yeah, it's our conspiracy. No. Okay, fine. Another thing, though, to point out, speaking of, like, movies getting canned and then finding other motives of taking care of them. Real quick story. It's not going to take barely anything because we do have reviews to do. Artemis Fowl, the book series that the trailer that I showed you that is based off this really popular book series.
Yeah, it's going to Disney Plus, right?
Yeah, like its release date theatrically is just gonna be Disney Plus, and I think the only reason they did that is because of how overwhelmingly negative the fan reaction was in
How dare you ruin this book that literally nobody outside middle school read.
This was strictly those middle school books. Like I'll never forget when back when Disney Channel had like the Disney 411 or Disney 365. They had like this big book signing at Disney for the last Artemis Fowl book, and it's just all kids and like preteens like who were in line with that one adult who was like, yeah, I bought this for my son, he didn't want it, so I read it and thought, hey, this is actually kind of good. But it's a movie that it came out had gutted everything interesting that this book had and would have made the movie really cool, and just kind of dumbed it down. Where in the book the main kid is like he is a flat out asshole. He is a villain. His dad gets kidnapped by Russian terrorists, and he tries to steal this book from fairies, and it eventually ends with him like having to kidnap a fairy, and the fairy kind of being like, hey man, fuck you, let me go. Well, since you kidnapped me, the military that I was a part of is gonna come after you to get the book and me back. And then, like, apparently there's other characters that also aren't on good terms with him. But in the movie, they're his friends and allies from the other side, and they love each other, and Artemis, he's not a bad boy. He's a person who didn't know about the magical aspect that his family was in charge of. Okay.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it, people. It's fine. It'll come out on Disney Plus. The people who want to see it will see it. The people who don't won't, and it will be forgotten about with any future plans of a sequel, going away.
Oh my goodness.
So
don't worry about it. It's gonna go on Disney Plus, so everyone that hates it will stay there in that contained ecosystem, and no one will say about it. Don't worry about it. It's fine.
Yeah, but it also kind of gives you hope for Mulan, because they haven't pushed Mulan or pulled Mulan at all. It actually has a release date in July now.
Freaking, like, people were so wanting to go into Mulan, but then it's just like, no, sorry, you're gonna die if you see Mulan.
Yeah.
No for you.
Man, I'm really curious what like a Disney-made wuxia movie would be. I'd totally be like, worth it. Because I'm gonna be this guy, not a particularly big fan of a lot of aspects of Mulan. I like the overall story. I don't like Mushu. And I'm actually kind of happy that he's completely written out of the script and released and replaced with a phoenix that, according to people, has no speaking lines.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah, like you see it in the trailer, they're like, the phoenix, he has been like a guardian spirit of our family. Like, I'm interested. One thing I find actually kind of like, whoa, you took him out? They took out the main love interest, which really makes you think what kind of movie this is going to be.
I have no idea what movie it's gonna be, because what is movies anymore? Because nothing's coming out, no one knows what anything is coming out, no one even knows what release schedules are anymore.
Yeah.
This whole thing is gonna be an interesting, like, prospect of how does the movie industry adapt to something like this.
Yeah, well, I think movie theaters who have all been treating Netflix as like the bastard child are probably going to have to look for Netflix to kind of help them out a bit, because AMC just announced, I think yesterday or today, they are now in $5 billion in debt. Hello?
That is a lot of... Holy crap. Okay.
Yeah. Like, it really reminds me when Netflix announced, we are $15 billion in debt. But we are quickly building that up, so we're kind of in a stalemate. Don't worry about us yet, people.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, but I don't know. It's interesting. I have a feeling that releasing these movies early which the only people who are doing this the right way, the only people who are doing this the correct way, is freaking Universal. Universal is making you pay $20 to rent movies. So you pay $20 for a movie that's in theaters, and you get to see it. And then if you don't like it, hey, you spent $20, which is how much you would have paid for you or your kid, or you, depending what theater you go to, and then it leaves your library forever. It's not like what freaking Sony is doing, where they put Bloodshot out, but you can only see it for $20, and I'm like, you can only buy it, and I'm like, I'm not gonna buy this movie. What if I hate it? And it looks awful.
But it's got Vin Diesel, man. It's got Vin Diesel and blood all over the place. That's why it's called Bloodshot.
Actually, this was the start of a cinematic universe. This was Sony hoping to build up their own Marvel universe, because this is from what is it? This is from a company called Valiant Comics, and they have a few very noticeable, characters. The only problem is that they got the Disney problem, where some of the characters were sold off to other companies. I think Sony only has the rights to 3 characters, and then a couple of very, very obscure ones.
Freaking. That's all I can say.
Yeah. Yeah, it's super weird what's going on, but yeah, Universal, they put out Invisible Man, which I don't think you guys have to rush out and see immediately. I really like the movie, but it's not perfect in any sense of the word.
Which movie again?
The Invisible Man.
Oh, right, The Invisible Man. Yeah, I remember you weren't enthusiastic at all about it.
Yeah, I was like, it was good. I don't, will it be on Halloween Movie Madness? Probably not. Me and you still haven't seen the original one, so maybe we'll
I'd
just
I'd rather see the original one.
Yeah.
I'd rather see the original one.
Yeah, I would totally rather just see that again. But
the original Mummy movie was great. The original Dracula was fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh my god. My favorite thing we do for the Halloween stuff is seeing the original stuff.
Yeah.
Because it's so, these are good, even for the time standard.
Yeah. And you really do get an appreciation with some of the things they have to pull off, but they don't have the resources we have now, like making Dracula's... Yeah.
Dracula's eyes glowing was a fucking film edit that they did. I'm like, what?
Yeah, they probably put a specific painter with a lens over the film reel, and then of course you have a guy in a carriage, and then the carriage driver turns into a bat, and you can obviously tell it's a bat on a string. But there's just...
But it's a bat. You can tell what it is.
Yeah.
You can tell what happened.
Yeah, you can tell people in the 1930s are just oh my god, how is the bat moving the currents on its own? Oh, this is the devil's work, Marianne. Don't look at it. But I think my favorite movie out of all of them, though, out of the 3 I think we've seen so far, was The Creature of the Black Lagoon, because it had such this very cheesy B-movies aesthetic to it. It was filmed in the 1950s, and it had some of the cheesiest tough guys in there, and the weirdest kind of lame awesome dialogue. Well,
what is life without cheesy dialogue?
Yeah, you remember that one line where it's all oh, don't go, the thing has it out for you specifically. I welcome it.
Is that the plot for Resident Evil 3?
Yeah, that is. Yeah. Oh, God, that game looks so fun. But I don't want to pay that much for...
I watched my buddy streaming. He beat it in 4 hours, and we were fucking around the whole time. So, it's not long at all. If you gone through it first try, even with, figuring out puzzles and all that stuff, you'd probably beat it in, 3 hours.
Man, that sucks. And
it's high quality 3 hours, don't get me wrong. It's a great 3 hours, but it's about 3 hours.
Yeah, it's not a bad game, gameplay-wise or, entertainment-wise, because I'm watching like Jesse and his friends play it, and I'm like getting into it, like seeing Carlos shoot Nemesis with like a rocket launcher. I'm like, fuck yeah, this is metal.
But there's one thing I will say, that Resident Evil 3 is only really good on PC for one thing, and that's that the modern community is making your second run-throughs really, really fun.
Yeah.
So we did the first playthrough. Everything legit. Played it on normal. We did it in 4 hours. And the second playthrough, we made Nemesis Thomas the Tank Engine, and believe me, that second run through was the funniest thing we've ever seen. When a giant Thomas the Tank Engine train just comes out with a rocket launcher.
That must make the hallway scene funnier where Nemesis like pulls down a piece of ceiling in your apartment building and starts chasing you down the hallway with it.
Oh my god, no, yeah, it's just a train. It's just a train going down the hallway. You wanna know the other fun thing we did?
What?
We changed Carlos's whole player model to Dante because they're made in the same game engine. All the rigs and all the animations go 1 for 1.
Yeah.
So he moves perfect. He moves absolutely perfect, as if he was made for this game. So we just have Dante from Devil May Cry 5 as Carlos, and it's the most beautiful thing ever, because Carlos's voice strangely works with his character model.
Oh, totally.
It's great.
I love how all the little like freaking white knights they hate Carlos because Carlos dares to hit on Jill like every other line.
Oh, just a little bit, only a little, and just like,
yeah,
he's such a dummy.
Yeah, but like, man, some of his things, they're like painfully 90s, like, a tall drink of water like yourself. I'm like, who still says that?
Tall drink of water, cause y'all be thirsty.
And I want to drink. But yeah, also I've seen the really horny mods too, like Jill in a leopard skin, like bikini.
Did you mean the plot?
Yeah, the plot one. But if there's one thing I liked about that mod, though, they didn't just make Jill sexy. They made Carlos shirtless with like oil glistening off his body.
They made him ripped and shirtless.
Yeah.
A dreamy heroic hero with raggedy ass hair.
Ooh. Hey, I'm just happy that we have a freaking Latino who is a main character in a 90s video game. That's cool. Unless Carlos isn't in the original game, then that's not cool. Yeah, so let's get to some actual reviews. I actually like that we had some interesting news to talk about.
I mean, we try.
Yeah.
So,
well, I mean, most of the time it's just starting off with like, starting off with like just the reviews and not really having anything else.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what were you gonna say?
Well, what do we have first?
Oh, well, I guess we'll start with something that I know a lot of people have already been talking about, because I have a few additional things to say about the second thing. So we'll start off with talking about the movie that everyone else has talked to death, Disney Plus's The Mandalorian, which...
That's not a movie. That's a TV series.
It feels like a very long 4-hour movie. Nah, not really. There's some like strictly episodic episodes in there.
Yeah, I wouldn't go to the lengths that just call it a movie, but I would say its production value very greatly mimics a full-length feature production.
Yeah. I think it was just as altogether it was just as expensive as like a base Disney Star Wars movie, so like I think it was somewhere in like 120 million. But it wasn't.
I believe it.
Yeah.
I believe it.
Yeah, but
it's good.
Mm-hmm.
It's fantastic.
It is very, very hard to imagine that this is a TV series. And no, I didn't want a trailer. I wanted some atmosphere music. But it is very hard to imagine that, oh shit, this is a TV series. This is a Star Wars TV series that has the budget of an actual Star Wars movie. And I mean...
and actual writers that care.
Yeah. Daniel, isn't that also making fun of one of your favorite TV shows?
Oh my god.
Because I've talked so much shit about Clone Wars, but watching it slowly, I'm like, this is actually pretty well written. The reason I never saw that show is because I hated the prequel so much, I wanted nothing from the prequel era. Hello?
Hey, look, I'm just saying, as far as Star Wars goes, like outside of Rogue One where they introduce, only Mandalorian has displayed Death Troopers how they're supposed to be.
Yeah.
And it's kind of grinding my gears how every other depiction of Death Troopers, like I'm specifically talking about Star Wars Rebels, is absolutely incorrect. And it grinds my gears.
Yeah.
Because as you know, I really, really love the idea and the lore behind those soldiers. And there's a lot of great lore behind them. There's a lot of really cool shit about Death Troopers and why they existed and why they work the way they work. And I absolutely hate when Star Wars Rebels has one that's just acting like a person rather than a Death Trooper. And I'm like, fuck off. No. They're not supposed to be people.
Yeah.
They're not. Like, they're literally engineered not to be people. So, when I saw The Mandalorian, how they were handled so well, like, they didn't say a fucking word. They were in formation, in perfect sync, like fucking robots. I'm like, oh, that is, you see, that's how they're supposed to work. That's how that's supposed to go.
Yeah, and there were parts where they actually had to get really physical with, they had to get really physical with some of the actors, like actually getting in fist fights, and you could tell, oh yeah, they made sure that the people they got to flail around the actors were actually strong, to show you, like, yeah, these things are freaking, like, these things are basically Cybermen, so, like, they pick you up and they can throw you on the floor like a biatch.
Oh, yeah, no, like, if Cyberpunk was a thing in Star Wars, the Death Troopers are the closest thing to an augmented soldier.
Yeah.
Like, that is what Death Troopers are. They're, like, I cannot stress enough how much tech is put in them that it's amazing that they're even considered people anymore.
Yeah. Well, it's not it's not the first time that we've had like overly cybernetic people within Star Wars like stories.
Oh yeah, there's Lobot and all those other like machine people.
Yeah.
Like they're in Star Wars, but they don't like play like a grand role.
Yeah, and don't forget, like in the original script, like Luke was supposed to be just like a human head on a robot body, with like his left arm.
Yeah, no, and that's why I like those comics that I bought. I didn't get to get them all because I stopped going to comic store to get the other issues, but that original script that was made into a comic book.
Yeah.
I really like that. I really like that comic book series because it's cool to see a retelling of a story we're familiar with completely different designs of characters and actions and plot. I'm like, yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, I'm just glad that they didn't go with that script because as the series kept going, there was a lot of things that were problems that the prequels had, like cramming in too many characters, cramming in too many subplots, too many conversations that eventually went nowhere, and the only thing that's really good about that comic was the very beginning because it was a lot of the Star Wars things we love, and then the very ending because it is so bonkers and crazy, but yet it wasn't as jarring as like what happened in episode 6. Like, what happens in the end of that comic is they train a bunch of Wookiees to fly spaceships and attack the Death Star. And apparently that was supposed to happen at the ending of episode 6, where it was supposed to be the Wookiees fighting stormtroopers and not tiny teddy bears.
I just love that Darth Vader has like he's not wearing a full mask, that he's like half, and like you can actually see some of his face when he's like killing the fuck out of people.
Yeah.
Like I just like when you can actually see a villain's like, let's say, determination to do the shit they're doing, you know?
Yeah, and even like most of the time, you don't even really need to see any part. You don't even have to see their face. Like it's all about body language. It's all about the way they're carrying themselves that make Darth Vader so scary. And jumping back to Mandalorian, it's what makes the Mandalorian work. The Mandalorian here is being played by Pablo Pascal, which a lot of people will remember from Narcos and the second Kingsman movie, along with a lot of other movies. Because as soon as that guy started doing movies, he blew the fuck up. And the thing they do well here is you don't see his face until the very ending, which I think was a mistake. But that...
Why? What was the mistake?
I think it would have been cool if they even kept the fact that he was like a human a secret. Like, I even had issues with those flashbacks, but I'm like, it would be cool if we don't know what the Mandalorian is. Like, he could be a human, or he could be a Greedo, or he could be a Twi'lek who cut the tentacles on the back of his head off. We don't know. He could be anything.
Well, as far as canonical lore goes, I believe even people that Mandalorians bring in are mainly humanoid because all their armor is only made for humanoids.
Yeah.
So, I don't know much to say if there's like different races they adopt, but primarily to my knowledge, it is all humanoid, Homo sapien looking like races that they take in.
Yeah. Well, we do see them eventually acknowledge a non-human as a potential Mandalorian in the end. You know who I'm talking about.
Yeah. But I'm just saying that as far as I've been informed or know about, but I don't know the specifics. However, that being said, Mandalorian was a nice treat for people to be like, let's get away from world universe ending bullshit and let's just tell a story in Star Wars.
Yeah.
And it's so refreshing to have just that.
Yeah, and let's
outside of a cartoon series.
Yeah, let's get rid of let's get rid of what the cartoons are doing. Let's step away from like big grand wars, sword and sorcery, King Arthur type of stuff, and let's
Hamlet.
yeah, more Hamlet-y stuff. But let's start looking at things like Samurai Jack or Western movies or Lone Wolf and Cub, which this is basically Lone Wolf and Cub in Star Wars, except the Mandalorian is a gunslinger, not a swordsman. But I'm with you. It felt good. It was grounded. It felt very There was some like thing that worked about the fact that it wasn't such a grand plot. Like, it was a very quiet, bare bones plot. Even taking advantage of the fact that the people that were after this thing wasn't the entirety of the Empire. It was just a small faction that is trying to restart the Empire. But we're only talking about maybe a couple thousand dudes.
Like, if you want my honest take on what makes me like stories like Mandalorian more than anything, and that's their respect for the technology in this universe.
Mm-hmm.
Like, allow me to elaborate what I'm talking about. One TIE fighter in the Mandalorian's like, oh shit, they have a TIE fighter. Versus any other people, oh, there's a TIE fighter, fucking nuke it out of the sky instantly.
Oh, okay, so you are talking about the TIE fighter. I thought you were talking about the ATST, which that one they're like, oh, fuck, that thing's a platoon killer.
Yeah, or the ATST, like, that thing is an army killer. We can't take on, like, when I'm saying weapons of war in this universe should be taken with gravitas for people that aren't an army, for people that aren't like Jedi.
Yeah, but
you know, like, and I feel that like in all these other movies where they take on droves of them like nothing, to have a nice story where they do all of this setup and all of this tactical stuff just to take down one is satisfying.
Yeah.
Because it makes sense. Like, if you go down the street and you saw an M1 Abrams fucking tank, what do you do to handle that one tank?
Easy.
What do you do?
Easy. You pick up your sticks and stones and start throwing at it until eventually you can get it in between two logs that will then squish its head.
But this is what I'm getting at. Like, I feel that Star Wars desensitizes. I'm trying to say desensitizes.
Desensitizes, I think.
Yeah, you know the word I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
The audience, in like understanding, like that these are weapons of war. You should not be able to just walk up to one and like take it out like it's no big deal, like a fucking battle droid. Like, this is why I like The Force Awakens more than the others. Because it treats the machines with respect. Like, I feel that when someone gets into an X-Wing or a TIE fighter, you're like, oh shit, that thing is dangerous.
Yeah.
That shit's gonna kill everything if under the right hands. Like, too many times that, like, space battles happen and it's just like mindless shit. It's just like, oh, whatever, blah, blah, blah. I like more... This is why one of my favorite Gundam series is AFMS Team. AFMS Team takes it like the Gundams are like tanks, and they only have one for a platoon because they're only like issued one, and then they have to take that one mech and make it do everything they possibly can get out of it because it's the only one they have.
Yeah.
And they have to fight against forces that greatly outnumber them and all that stuff. Like, those kinds of stories I feel just suit better for all this sci-fi stuff, because then you get to really learn the limitations and the rules of these machines. Rather than, oh, I'm just gonna force pull that ship out of the sky.
Hey, that was like the best scene in Star Wars The Force Unleashed, though, where you pull an entire Star Destroyer out of the sky.
Which shouldn't be fucking possible, but whatever.
It could when you use two hands and you have the dark side, Daniel.
I'm sorry. Just like Rey can't deflect lightning with one lightsaber, she needs two. Got it. Okay, two is enough.
Yeah, no, that's some silly stuff going on there. But no.
In either case, when you see Mando's ship, right, and it's a hunk of junk, but it's a hunk of junk that works, I love it.
Yeah. and they even give it a reason why it's not some flashy new ship and why he keeps it around. The ship is so old that it's not detected by a lot of the new radars they have today, which is why he keeps it around.
It's not that it's not detected, it has never been registered.
Yeah.
It's a one of a kind that's never been flagged or scanned, meaning that it's completely invisible.
Yeah. Which it's great, and it really does kind of like it really does kind of help in making this character iconic. That like everything about this character is iconic. His look is iconic. The way he acts is iconic. His ship is freaking iconic. There is a Lego of that ship, and I never buy those big fancy Legos, but my wallet is itching.
His ship has more character than some people in the Star Wars movies, okay?
Yeah, no, that is absolutely
its
true.
Own character.
No, yeah, that is absolutely true. I mean, you want to know something funny is there's a guy, I forget his name because who remembers anyone in The Rise of Skywalker, but there's a guy that the only reason he is in the movie is because he like blackmailed or won a bet against J.J. Abrams, which is why when the guy is in the movie, there's not really much he does in it. But you will remember him as the guy who said, oh, the holder remover, that's a 1 in 1,000 chance of happening.
1 in a million.
Yeah, 1 in a million.
Meaning that every other way she would have ran away and left them for dead.
Yeah.
She's a fucking traitor. She tried to run away.
Yeah, but
I hate it so much.
that was terrible. I'm like, look, I know, I know what she did opens up a lot of, well, why didn't they do this? But just completely sweeping it, brushing it off, and acting like, oh, you know, it's not as big as a deal as you guys think it is. I think that's really disrespectful.
I think to easily make it not a thing to be like a plan, they should just tell it like it is. Like, okay, here's a good way to write that off as an option for the story while still maintaining its canonical significance. In Halo Reach, right?
Mm-hmm.
A slip space engine drive for a ship that massive, there are only a few of them in the world.
Yeah.
And let's say the Resistance, with their resources spread thin, they only have a few of those as well.
Yeah.
So to sacrifice one of those engines for one fucking ship, you better make it count.
Yeah, which they did.
Which they did. So rather than say, oh, that's not going to work because it's stupid, they should be like, we can't sacrifice another engine like that. We need those to survive, to stay mobile.
Yeah.
But, that's what I'm saying. Like, you can make this work while still respecting the rules. But no, they just said, oh, that's stupid. That's impossible.
Yeah, man, it really makes you yearn for, like, the Colin Trevorrow script, which was completely following what The Last Jedi left them, but still, you know, kind of being fun.
Yeah, and that's what I'm like. It's so interesting to me how, like, childish they wrote it, because I'm like, you can do it cleverly while dismissing this stuff, but they just chose not to do that. Like I was bringing up Halo Reach, when they want to blow up the Covenant ship, they're like, we need a slip space engine to put it in the Covenant ship and nuke it from the inside.
Yeah.
And they're like, that's a $500 million engine, son, and we don't have a spare one for you to take in there. The Pillar of Autumn will donate their slip space engine, sir. And like, you know, like, there is gravitas to sacrificing such expensive equipment for one freaking, like, mission.
Yeah.
And that's told to you in 5 minutes. Like, it's great. It makes sense. Yeah, a slip space engine is probably not fucking easy to get. Let alone, you know, for your rebel command ship like the Radis, a whole fucking, you know, command ship, the engine on that thing is probably fucking massive, and you probably don't have many of those.
Yeah.
Just make it's too expensive to do that.
Yeah, but, you know, then you have other people that are like, why not use a freaking, like, X-Wing or something? And it's all like, easy, because X-Wings aren't that big. Like, we're talking about a ship that took down one half of a giant space station and, like, a handful of tiny Star Destroyers. Like, we're literally talking about a ship big enough to make sure that it's ripping a hole in space-time was strong enough to slow down the enemy. And even then, the people are still fucked. But anyway, I digress. Let's go back to The Mandalorian, because that has very little things that bothered me. Like, I think I told you after the series ended, my overall thing is I love The Mandalorian, but I don't think it's amazing, uber incredible that a lot of people have been touting it as. Like, I think there's at least a good 2 or 3 episodes that could be cut out of this 8-episode series. Like, we don't need them.
Sure, but I'm pretty sure anyone will take what we can get of it, because it's great.
Yeah, like, you know, they're not terrible, but
they're not. By no means are they filler.
Yeah.
But if you want to trim some fat, sure.
One of my favorite episodes. Yeah, one of my favorite episodes did feel like filler, though. The one where he, like, teams up with that ragtag group to save that Twi'lek. That really didn't feel like it had any impact, nor was there any. It almost kind of felt like they contradicted the Mandalorian a bit because they show that the Mandalorian is a cold-blooded killer and he kills people without a second thought. And then in this one, it's like, oh, the Mandalorian, he's a cold-blooded killer. He'll kill people. Oh, he doesn't have the balls to do this job, though. Yeah, he's too much of a wimp. And then, like, instead of him killing them, it's like, no, I'm not a killer. I'm just going to leave you guys in prison. It's like, but the other show told us that you were a killer, and you still continue on from that point to still mercilessly kill people? Why? But why is it that those people who tried to kill you are suddenly like you have something to prove to those scumbags?
I mean, he did murder all of them. I don't know what you're talking about. He brought the entire freaking rebel fleet to nuke the bad guy space station.
No. So he has it to kill the Twi'lek, the Twi'lek, and the guy's space station. Yes, but the people who tried to kill him, the team that he had, he locked them up in a rebel prison.
Yeah, a rebel prison that no longer has no navigator, no longer is going anywhere, and is stuck drifting in space. That's a fate worse than death.
I don't know. I mean, I get it now that you bring it up, but I'm still like, I would have just liked to see him kill him on screen. I mean, similar to Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, the scenes of him capturing them were freaking metal, though. Like, the Bill, I forget this guy's name, it's some, like, comedian people like, but Bill Barr or whatever his name is, the bald guy with the awesome little shoulder gun. Like, I love that scene where they show like Mando creeping up on him, like a horror movie where the lights are dimming up and down.
Yeah, and he's not there, and then suddenly he's closer.
Yeah.
Like, okay, and yeah, every single aspect of, I believe that's episode 6. I don't know.
That was episode 6. Yeah.
Okay, so I didn't remember correctly. Yeah, every single aspect about that episode is brilliant.
Yeah.
If they made it all on one set with minimal cast, and it's brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the way they trick you to think they're running around the ship, even though they're using the same exact hallways, just different perspectives and different like lighting and everything. Fucking ooh. Like, if there was, like, a lesson of efficiency to film something that's entertaining, that should be a very good example.
Mm-hmm.
It's absolutely brilliant. I love it. And, yeah, all the scenes in it were fucking awesome. It was just... It is peak budget awesome Star Wars.
Yeah.
And it's great. Like, it's just, like... Somebody took the time to be like, all right, what's the most action-y and awesome thing we can make with about 3 sets?
Yeah. Well, and then I bet someone's like, well, the other night I was playing a Star Wars tabletop game. Yeah, we'll do that. Because this totally felt like a Star Wars tabletop game.
Oh, yeah. No, that really did feel like somebody was rolling dice.
Yeah.
For this is what you see in the ship you boarded.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, you're right. No, it really does feel like a scenario straight out of a D&D book. And that's what makes it work. It's just like, an interesting story with interesting fighting, with interesting things that develop. And it's like, oh, shit. Ah!
Yeah. Like, I love the little plot twist that they had in the ending, too, in regards to a character they referenced in the very beginning, only for it to come back later and, like, bite him in the ass, which I thought was awesome. I don't think the acting was particularly that good, though. I think Clancy Brown as, like, the big horn demon was okay, but the Twi'lek brother and sister, the girl was getting on my nerves, which sucks because I love her in the Harry Potter movies. She plays Tonks, if anyone remembers her. But, like, that guy, I'm like, your delivery's kind of off. Like, I love what you're saying because it's being written well, but your delivery of it isn't particularly that good. But, you know, to also, before moving on, though, like, to also address the elephant in the room, I'm with a lot of people. As at the end of episode 1 of The Mandalorian, I'm like, Oh no, a cute creature that's obviously gonna sell toys. How irritating is this thing gonna be? I'm really surprised that Disney or like whoever was writing, they did not feel they had to make the child, or as the internet named him, Baby Yoda, like too into the plot. There was never a Incredibles 2 scene where they gave him a scene in the middle of like the overall conflict.
I will agree with that. Baby Yoda is handled so well because he's in the entire show. However, not once is the camera pointed at him saying, "Oh, look at him, isn't he cute?" He's just kind of there as the plot's happening.
Yeah.
And that's what's brilliant about the writing. It's just like the plot's happening. Mando's fighting this girl in heated CQC combat, and out of nowhere, Baby Yoda's just there, just drinking fucking tea, and it's brilliant because they both look at him. It's like, the fuck you looking at?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's great because not once does the show compromise the plot moving along.
Yeah.
To just acknowledge how cute this thing is. It's just like, yes, it's cute. Look at him. But he's over there in the distance. The plot's happening right here.
Yeah. And there's never, like, I love Incredibles too, don't get me wrong, people. But there's not a scene where there's a big conflict happening, but then in the background there's another character chasing around Baby Yoda as they're killing stormtroopers, and Baby Yoda is like inadvertently helping him survive the stormtroopers. There's nothing that big, and when Baby Yoda does have his moments, they come off as very, oh shit, this is going to have the Jedi, because what Star Wars series will have, will not have a Jedi reference. And two, I really like the idea that this is a child. Yeah, he's 50 years old, but it's a child hanging out with a guy who is killing people, and the child, which is probably old enough to take in all of that, is like, oh, okay, so if someone is hurting someone I care about, or I feel is putting someone I care about in danger, I'm just gonna fucking choke him out. Like, I love that scene where he strangles Cara, what was her name? Cara or something? The Gina Carano character? Cara Dune. There we go. Hello? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
Oh, okay, yeah. Where he strangles Cara Dune because her and the Mandalorian were arm wrestling, and he just starts force choking her because he labeled her as a threat. And even with like at the very ending scene, you start to pick up little notions that, oh, the Mandalorian might be a bad influence on this little guy, and an evil Jedi that is possibly from Yoda's race, that's probably not a good thing.
Oh my goodness. Hey, look, nobody knows what Baby Yoda's race is even called, let alone how the fuck they even reproduce.
Yeah.
Let's just say, fuck it, it's cute.
Yeah, it's cute. How it's handled is great. I really am glad Corona... Well, no, I'm not happy at all. I'm just glad that this lockdown happened, or else I probably would have had like 2 toys by now. Because they're out already. I think the
Only 2?
Well, I would have bought the Funko Pop, and then I would have bought the $24 Build-A-Bear plushie.
Oh yeah, Build-A-Bear is getting... Yeah. I saw that.
Yeah, the fun
before the mall closed, yeah, I saw that we're getting Baby Yoda.
Yeah, and then the lockdown happened, and Baby Yoda is just in the Galleria, staring at people in the mall, but no one can see him. And his pop came out literally a week before the lockdown. So some people got him.
I mean, look. So, like, I think the funniest thing I did before lockdown happened was get In-N-Out. Because In-N-Out's closed, by the way. They're done.
Yeah.
So, like, the last day I went to work, I'm like, I'm not leaving here without In-N-Out coming back home. Because this is the last time I'm gonna...
Yeah.
And sure enough, it was. I went back to my work on the weekend, actually, for a few, just a little bit. Because I need they bought masks, and they want to distribute it out to employees, so I went to go pick them up for the fam.
Yeah, that's great.
Everything in Glendale's closed. It's a ghost town. It's crazy.
Yeah. Well, we were at
The Shake Shack was open though to take to go orders. I'm like, I got some Shake Shack. I'm like, I might as well get something before I leave.
Shake Shack. There's a Shake Shack like right by Funko Hollywood, and that was like my second time having it, and I'm like, God damn, they're like little chicken tender things are really good. Like I've had their burgers before, and those are also very good, but I don't know why those like little chicken tenders clicked with me.
But yeah, they're good. Shake Shack's good, but like it was interesting to me that they were pretty much the only thing open on that street. Like it was kind of like
So In-N-Out was closed. They didn't even have walk-ins.
No, nothing. There's nothing at the In-N-Out.
That is freaking crazy.
I'm guessing it's because the In-N-Out doesn't have a drive-thru. I think other In-N-Outs that have drive-thrus can do it.
And they probably don't want to risk a walk-in because of how big the place is.
Yeah, I think since this one doesn't have a drive-thru access or whatever.
Yeah.
That this is one of the In-N-Outs that just is a no-go. I don't know about the other ones. I haven't actually checked. But I would argue that if In-N-Out was open during this stuff, it would have to be one of the drive-thru ones.
Yeah. So probably the one in Burbank might be open.
Maybe. Yeah. But the point being is, as of the orders that just dished out in the state of LA, you shouldn't go around anywhere without a mask.
Yeah.
Like they're like, we don't want anyone that's doing essential business without a mask outside right now. So kind of hard.
Yeah.
But at least I got 10 of them over here for the fam to use because they go out for, stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So they'll be using them accordingly. I just find it nuts that the Airnium mask I bought like a year and a half ago is now one of the most valuable things that I have.
Yeah, I saw someone flat out in one of those spray paint artist masks.
Those will work. Those will work.
Yeah.
Basically anything with super high filtration will work. Like my Airnium mask will work because even though it's meant for air pollution, like that's exactly like what you're trying to stop, air going through. Mm-hmm. It's really hard to breathe in it. Don't get me wrong. Like you should never exercise wearing one of these masks.
Yeah.
Like an N95 mask or my Airnium mask, you should never exercise in this thing. It will hurt because you can't breathe through it.
Yeah.
Well. But because you can't breathe through it well, that means it's fucking doing its job.
Yeah.
That means it's doing its job. So I actually went out and did stuff with that, and I had people on the street ask me where I got my mask actually, because the nice thing about Airnium is that it's not only it's a practical thing, but it's also like sleek and fashionable. That's what they advertise, like go around in fashion while protecting the air you breathe. And so people are like, man, I like how your mask looks. Where'd you get it?
Yeah.
And I'm like, thanks, fam. I never thought I'd need to use it, but here we are.
Yeah. But yeah, so speaking of diseases that are spreading across and putting the land in panic, let's talk about you know what? That wasn't as
pretty clever.
Yeah.
I'll give you that.
Yeah, I was trying to think of what could I do to segue us in, and then I'm like, oh yeah, there is a sickness in Netflix's 2019 fantasy epic series, The Dark Crystal, which of course is a prequel, but also the newest the newest thing to come out of the 1982 classic, I guess, of Jim Henson's puppet film, a very experimental puppet film. Yeah, so let me get this elephant out of the room. I am not a particularly big fan of the 1982 Dark Crystal. I think it is an absolutely beautiful movie that was thinking outside of the box decades before it would become a norm in Hollywood, to set a world with absolutely no human performers and strictly keep it with like creatures and stuff, and not only that but have to build practical sets to accommodate these very expensive looking and ultra detailed puppets, which Jim Henson at the time was just barely starting to dip their toe in. Like it it is an absolutely beautiful film that has no absolutely no world building, explains nothing about the characters, and only gives you the very baseline of what's going on and doesn't want to explain anything else after that. Even with some things that might need a narration, you feel needed to be explained. They go unexplained, and it's very, very jarring and even kind of downright irritating in some scenes. Do you know why? Did I ever tell you why, Daniel? It was like that, though?
No, and I have never seen the original movie, but I actually have someone that has it that can stream it to my Discord, so we
It's
might do a movie night to see it, just to see it.
Ooh, I want to do that then, because I was gonna say yeah, it's on Netflix. They put it the same day they did the TV show.
Oh, is it on Netflix? Okay, then I can do it that way too. But point being is, I have not seen it, so I have no idea. But I've heard many stories,
Yeah.
and not only from you, but from YouTubers and the like, when they were talking about the childhood trauma stuff.
Yeah. Oh, I have a. It's nothing negative, but like I do have something to say for people like the odd ones out who did his who was tapped by Adam to do a childhood trauma video, and he chose the Dark Crystal, and he did a review that is more or less what I think of it, but he was a little too verbally harsh and kept calling the film garbage and stuff, but he did occasionally point out when what scenes worked, and he did, like me, appreciate a lot of the artistry that went in it. Until a few months ago, when he did a video talking about Age of Resistance, where apparently Lisa Henson, the daughter of Jim Henson and one of the producers for the show, saw his video and invited him to Jim Henson's studios, and you could straight out tell it was we heard all the negative things you said about our movie. Let us show you all of the hard work that went into it. And also, we see that you have like 10 million followers, so that's really good for us.
And also, let your followers know that they should sign up now.
Yeah, this is freaking awesome, and let us show you that what you kind of said was wrong. And I don't like that after that little experience he had, he's all like, yeah, I think I was being too harsh, and I think I would look at the movie a different way now. Yeah, they had a plan when they took you, and it worked. I really hope that if that ever happens to me, I'm gonna be like, wow, that was really nice. But I still think that the original Dark Crystal was a lot of wasted potential that thankfully, thanks to a comic book series released in 2011 and the series, a lot of the plot holes, gaping, giant, bottomless plot holes in the movie were filled or explained. So,
Well, okay.
yeah, so what did you think of the overall series?
I just okay. So I finished it today, and like I feel like there's so much sequel bait, and
Yeah.
I know that's the point, but like I'm like, what? I would expect the Gelflings would have that whole place surrounded. How do they just walk away?
Yeah, but
Like,
it's almost as
that was my weird thing of just like this setup looks like we're ending this here and now, and then they just walk away.
Yeah.
I was like, what? That's it.
Yeah, and that's what you said that made me think too. It's like, yeah, you'd think the Gelflings would have them surrounded, but it just looked like all those armies showed up and just kind of crescent mooned them, and it's like, so you let them go, and I get, okay, so there's a lot of things going on. There's one, you have the fact that the main character, but it's only the main characters. The main characters are aware why it's kind of a bad idea to kill the Skeksis, and the creators are aware why it's a bad idea to kill the Skeksis. One, you have the fact that the Skeksis are the main antagonists and you get rid of them, and what else do you have left? And then two, you kill them, you end up killing characters who kind of don't deserve it.
I just like, I wouldn't say that the series ending was unsatisfactory. I was just like more of like, why is it so sequel bait? What the fuck?
Yeah, well, because
it's good though. I like what they did. I especially like how the spider people and how they play into everything.
Yeah, it's amazing how they turned generic, like generic enemies in every fantasy story into like legitimate characters that you are actually kind of rooting for by the end of the series.
I mean, I like the whole idea with just like, oh, the thing that's been controlling my mind, it's been with me so long, I don't know if we can separate.
Yeah, because we don't know where one ends and the other begins, so we're kind of just tangled with it.
I kind of like that idea that if something controls you for so long, you stop fighting it and it just meshes into your head,
Yeah.
It's just like, oh, neat.
Yeah. I just wish they didn't do what they did with that character. I kind of wish they kept her alive longer. I was very bummed out they did what they did with her so soon. Which is one of the things that I'm with you. I wasn't expecting the series to be so sequel baity. I was kind of waiting for the last episode to kind of start tying up a lot of the things that would eventually end. I don't want this to happen, but a lot of people are already throwing out theories that Rian has to be the father of at least the main character or the main girl character in the movie, and I'm like, I kind of don't want any of these guys to be the parents of the main characters in the film. I kind of want them to just be characters that set the stage for what the main characters would do in the movie, but I don't want it to be like, oh, Rian was Kira's dad the whole time. It's like, no, I don't want that.
Off topic, but what are you playing in the background?
Oh, you can hear it? I am playing, let me lower it a bit. I don't want it to become a hindrance. During The Mandalorian, I was playing the Mandalorian score, and now I am playing the original 1982 theme for Dark Crystal.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, I kind of got the idea from another podcast. I'm like, I like that. I think I should edit them when I get the time. I should start editing things in the background to kind of make it easy listening.
Oh yeah, have them really low volume in the back. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So let me lower it. It was a little high, but yeah. What were you saying?
But yeah, no. Overall, Dark Crystal is a fine show. I was actually showing some other people it when I was watching it, and just like my face when you were telling me, it's like, oh, can you tell that's Simon Pegg? Oh, can you tell that's Mark Hamill? Can you tell that? What the fuck? and they made a comment that was funny. It's like, man, they certainly have a whole lot of old people that can't act anymore, but they get sure damn voice actors.
That is so offensive, but it's fucking painfully true. You don't want Mark Hamill to act anymore, but you want to hear his voice.
Yeah. That's why I'm like, look, that's mildly mean, but I will not say you're wrong.
Yeah. Andy Samberg, I like Andy Samberg. I love The Lonely Island, and I have a Hot Rod is one of my favorite guilty pleasure movies, but I don't think he's a particularly good actor. But there's something about him voicing that Skeksis, the heretic, that it just works for me, which is not a popular opinion because a lot of people hated those characters. They hated the heretic and I forget what the Urdo's name was, but they hated.
Really?
Yeah.
Why? They're so good. They're so good.
Yeah, they found okay, Andy Samberg was cranking it up to 20 when he should have been cranking it up to 10 or maybe even possibly a 9. And then you have that was Bill Hader, by the way, people. That was Barry from that HBO show, and Flint Lockwood in Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. But they had a problem with his character because he's explaining very crucial plot to the universe, and he's
crucial plot.
Very crucial plot, and he's explaining some very important things in a very slow voice, like this. And even then, the way I was talking was even faster than that. But
I mean, I kind of like that joke though.
Yeah.
Because they're high out of their mind.
Yeah, they're both high out of their mind, and one of them is getting a downer, and the other one's just like up, super super up. But I really do think the characters wouldn't work on they're one of those cases, and this is exactly how you should do these characters, since, spoiler alert, they're a part of the same entity.
Look, I'm just saying, clearly he was taking indica and the other one was taking sativa. If anyone asks how people act when they take each strain, just show them that scene from Dark Crystal. The jumpy one's sativa, the slow one's indica.
Yeah. But, you're right.
Tell me I'm wrong.
You're not wrong. That's why it's funny. But it's like, the thing that makes those two characters work is you have, when the Bill Hader one will be talking slow, you have the Andy Samberg one like, your name, say it, you have 2 days,
come on,
yeah, almost there, come on, yes, the time has come, just say it, the time, it worked for me, and I feel like this is a puppet show that does have comedic moments, but it is a downer from almost start to finish, especially after, what was it, episode 4, when they meet the hunter. Like, that is when the show is just nothing but them killing off people like crazy.
I love the hunter. The hunter is fucking the most interesting and pivotal character in the whole show. He determines the plot, really.
Yeah.
The hunter himself is the most important character, because he's actually, fearsome, powerful, and deadly. I immensely like the idea that they're split into two, and, when one dies, the other's forced to die.
Yeah. And the thing is too that I'll share with you, because I have no idea when I'm going to be able to give you the comic, because I'm kind of waiting for you to finish what you got, and also waiting for the quarantine so I can see you face to face. But
I think me reading the comments is the least of your worries right now.
Oh, come on, we all know after this quarantine I'm still not going to see those comics for another 2 years. You flat out had one of my comics for 2 years, and I had thought I lost them when I lost my laptop.
Okay, so that one my house ate. That wasn't me being negligent. There's a difference. See, there's a difference when the house ate it, and then I know where it is, but I have not read it.
Yeah. But
there's a big difference. You can't mark me for that one.
Yeah, which, by the way, now that you're done with Dark Crystal, I think that's going to be the thing I'm going to be pushing on you now.
yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, well, not too much, though. But...
Yeah.
What were you saying, sorry?
Oh, it was just fucking... I will read them. That was the perfect time to read them.
Yeah. I'm finally reading manga all the way through.
Finally reading mangoes.
Mangoes. But what I wanted to say was, in 2011, and mind you, this is 2011, in a movie that came out in 1982, one of the most pivotal years for like 80s nostalgia movies, because this came out the same year as E.T. and fucking John Carpenter's The Thing.
Phone home!
But you have you find out that the Skeksis and the Urus are the uwu. No one made that joke. I had to make that joke.
I hate it.
That's all you should say.
That's all I'm gonna say on it. I hate it.
you find out that the Skeksis and those other creatures, they are aliens. And what you find out in the TV show is you find out they were a part of the same entity that was split in half. The Urus flat out being, the Mystics. I don't like having to use my R too much, so I'll just call them the other name, the Mystics.
Yeah, just say the Mystics before you keep saying woo.
Yeah, well, yeah, because I'm trying to say it with the R's, but I'm not good with pronouncing the R's. So, you find out that they were a part of the same being. And in this 2011 comic known as The Dark Crystal Creation Myths, if you guys want to check it up and buy it, you find out that they came down to Earth after something called the Great Conjunction, where it is all three sons of Thra line up, and that is when the crystal's power is at its peak strongest. And when that happened, the crystal was calling towards another planet, and that is when 18 mysterious creatures known as the Urskeks showed up, and almost immediately they come off as, we are here to teach you civility, we are going to teach you civilized manners, help you increase technology and the evolution of your planet, but we're also going to just build this giant crystal castle around the crystal, and we're just gonna, experiment on it. Huh?
It's like, we're just gonna build this castle and don't mind us, bye!
Yeah, don't mind us. And the main character in this series, I forgot his name. Raunip, who is actually mentioned. He has a very small name cameo in the TV show. But Raunip who is Augura's son. Yeah, think about that, people. The big, ugly lady, mystic lady, somehow conceived with someone and had a kid.
She did?
Yeah. Well, no, there's a mystery behind that character too. But and like how he came to be. But yeah,
she was born of Thra, and she was the mother of Thra, so therefore everyone is a child.
Yeah. Well, yeah. The Gelfling and the animals, they're all the mother of Thra, but Raunip's not. Raunip was a meteor that was given life.
No, perfectly normal.
Yeah, perfectly fine. Meteor baby. He's like Superman, except without all the cool powers. But they show up and start like making him doubt things. They're like, okay, well, if they mean well, why are they taking our most prized artifact that belongs to the planet and they're just sealing it up where only they can get to it? Like, I don't think that's fair. And you find out that those 18 entities were actually exiles. They were criminals that were exiled to Earth, and they just want to go home. But now it kind of brings up this question, what did they do to get sent? And you never find out in the comic, and due to how faithful the TV show was to the comic book and the lore that Jim Henson and Brian Froud set up, I'm really interested if they're even gonna mention that in the coming season. No.
Just like the Skeksis, every time she says something, no.
Oh yeah. No. Yeah, you really gotta. There's a thing between no thank you, But just flat out being told no, like, that is when you could tell the person fucking hates you and will never help you.
No.
But, like, if there's one thing that you mentioned, this does have, like, a fire cast behind it. Like, the cast they have is fucking crazy. They have Taron Egerton as Vianne. They have freaking, they have Simon Pegg as the Chamberlain.
Yeah, Chamberlain.
Oscar Isaacs, not Oscar Isaacs, Jason Isaacs, who was Malfoy's dad in the Harry Potter movies. He's the Emperor. You have Mark Hamill, who is the scientist. Like, it is an impressive cast that feels kind of wasted because you don't even know it's them for like half of the show. And it's awesome.
I would have known. I would not have known if you had not mentioned
And if
by
it,
the way.
yeah, and if it wasn't for the fact... Oh, you said by the way, what were you going to say?
No, it's just like when you said, by the way, did you know
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah.
If it wasn't for the fact that I love dishing out some trivia, I probably wouldn't have told you just to be like, I'll tell him by the end of the series or something, but I'm like, nah, I'll tell him as the episodes go. But it's amazing how, like, Simon Pegg especially, because the Emperor is in the first movie, but he doesn't really have any lines. And in this one, what makes Simon Pegg's character so different is he is dealing with a character who did talk a lot in the original movie, and he is a person that had to mimic his voice almost exactly like the original voice actor in the movie, and it sounds just like him to the point where you're like, is this Simon Pegg? Or are you not giving the puppeteer credit? Because this does not sound like him in the slightest.
It's fine, don't worry about it.
But when they show you in the documentary they made, and they show him talking as the Chamberlain, it is uncanny. You're like, that is not your voice. Why are you talking in that voice?
Look, okay, let's just be real. The only reason you like the Chamberlain is because you like to torment people going,
No, Daniel. You have to get it like this.
Alright, fuck off, I'm done.
Yeah, so, look, I wasn't going to bring it up at all. You're the one that brought that up.
Okay, I just made the joke. You didn't have to go fucking all out.
Yana hates it because at first I used to just type it to her and she used to be like, oh god, no, stop. But then one day when we were talking, I did the voice and she's like, oh god, you can actually mimic the voice. I'm like, yeah, why else? I'm not just typing it and saying it in my head.
I'm saying it out loud.
Yeah, I'm saying it out loud as I'm typing it.
Which is horrifying.
Yeah, but if there's one thing before we do leave, there's two things that were a very big standout in this show, and they're character-wise. One was a character that was in the movie that I felt was just a blatant ripoff of Yoda from The Empire Strikes Back, and that was Mother Agra, who is basically one of the deities of that world, who is the mother of the planet and is sent to kind of communicate for other aspects of the planet to other life on the planet. So she speaks for the trees and the rocks because the trees and rocks wanted to have a voice. Agra is actually literally made out of the trees and rocks of Thra and formed what you see now. Yeah, but she goes from like this crazy Yoda ripoff to still keeping the same voice and the manner of speaking, but there's so much more behind her. There's so much more sass behind her. And you could tell that even though she's abusive and kind of scary, she legitimately does care for the Gelflings and the planet itself. And even if aspects of the planet try to turn on her, like the spiders, for example, she will still be like, she'll be like, wait, you tried to control me? It's okay, I still love you.
No, that was my favorite line of the whole show. You tried to control Mother Agra? Mother Agra can't control Mother Agra. And I'm like, fucking shit, that ain't like...
Yeah, that...
fucking gold. I don't know what it is.
Yes, there was some legitimately good lines, and I even like how some of the lines with how racist some of the Gelflings were too. You know how they'd go to Deet and call her smelly or like a green ogress or something like that. Like the writing in the show is amazing, and I really do love that after that scene, the spider that tried to take over her head becomes her spy and starts spying on the Skeksis for her. But yeah, the other last little standout is Deet, which is a female Gelfling that is from this underground tribe called the Groton, who have been buried underground for so long that all the other Gelfling tribes believe they're dead. And they kind of forget they exist until one of them is like, oh, there's one above ground. What? There's still a thing? Weird.
Yeah, don't worry about it, it's fine.
Yeah, but one thing she gets is I really like her story and the fact that she is a reference to the movie and the comic book, that she has this special relationship with animals where she can literally talk to them. And I do like, I also do agree. No, Yana does agree with me because I'm not the only weirdo here. She is probably the only puppet that isn't ugly. Like, I think the big alien-like eyes kind of help her not look so uncanny compared to the other Gelflings. No?
I mean, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, because...
I think puppets in general, like, they just, like, have that look, and to me, I like it. I'm not creeped out by it at all.
Yeah, there's this ugliness to it. Like, Yana really loves Hup, which is a little podling creature, and I'm with you. That thing's kind of ugly because of how wrinkly it is. Like, it's supposed to be cute, but it has kind of like this wrinkly quality to it, and it's like you must feel really weird to touch.
No touch.
No touchy. But no, What did you think about what happened to her in the ending? Because that kind of bummed me out.
To who specifically?
Deet? What happened to...
I thought it was great because the shit told her, you can't fucking put it away, you can only transfer it. And it's like, oh...
Yeah.
Okay. That means it must go somewhere. And if it means that means it's just gonna go straight into her and corrupt her until she dies, well then fuck.
Yeah.
I mean, you already got a foreshadowing in the visions that she would sit upon the Sexi's throne. It's like, oh, what's all that about?
I know that's the thing that's scaring the hell out of me. I'm like, she's so cute and pure, and now
the darkening will make her evil, and then they must fight her, their most cherished friend and ally. Ah!
Yeah, and she is the main love interest to the main Gelfling in here, which I was cool with that. I'm like, you have a what would be considered attractive to him female character with the princess, and you're giving him the little outcast girl. I like that. There's not enough of that in
The princess has fucking, like, drawings of them cuddling. I'm like, what the fuck? Why'd you draw that? When did you draw that?
Yeah, they did kind of hint, and I think the creators have even kind of hinted at the possibility of, like, she was also kind of into him, but we don't know, and please don't have a love triangle, because I hate those.
Love triangle. Why do you care about Deet so much? What about us? Deet's fucking covered in darkness, yo, what?
Yeah, and mind you, it's really depressing when you watch the movie and you see its drab, dying landscape, and you realize after watching the Netflix show, oh god, that was probably Deet who did that. Oh no.
He's just walking around, just, like, basically corrupting the environment she touches. I'm like, wow.
Yeah, I'm like, no, why her? It's so sad. They probably are gonna have to kill her. And I mean, we all know that they're all gonna die. If you've seen
they kill her, though, all the darkening that she has stored inside will burst out.
Yeah.
Like pus.
Oh god, I don't want that. The darkening's just going to turn into an actual creature. But,
yes.
no.
It's gonna turn into the end of Borderlands 3 boss is just a giant tentacle thing.
Or what was that one RPG game you really liked? Kingdom of Amalur? It just turns into that dragon they decided to make the final boss.
That giant dragon thing?
Yeah. It just...
dragon thing?
Yeah, it just turns into that. But, no, overall, you know, there could be more. I could honestly talk about the show all day, because this came out in what I called Danny's 2019, like, top 3 TV shows, where, like, I never gushed over TV shows. Maybe anime, yeah, but I've never gushed over, like, actual television shows. And I feel like last year, I had 3, or maybe just 2 shows that affected me in a way that it made me really... It either affected me in a way that was utterly emotional, or hit me in a way that I didn't see coming. Like, Dark Crystal was one of these shows, but I'm pretty sure you remember how obsessed I was with Doom Patrol for the beginning of all last year. How that is all I wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
But that is a show that's like, oh, it's a superhero show, but we're gonna mainly just talk about how dysfunctional and how much, like, mental help these characters need, because these are characters in dire need to save their mentality before they can even think about saving anyone else. And it's a brilliant show, and it wasn't, a few months later after I was getting over Doom Patrol, freaking the Dark Crystal comes out, which blew my mind. It took a movie I wasn't initially a fan of and made me freaking fall in love with not only just respect to the movie, but kind of just start reading all these comic books that they have, or buying these toys, which I'll tell you, paying $30 for a tiny ogre figurine was something I probably wouldn't have done if it was the movie.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah, but overall, the show...
You like to buy ugly toys, huh?
I know, they are ugly. No, they're hideous. I still look at, like, the freaking Hunter toy I have, and I'm like, man, you're not just ugly because you're based off an ugly character, but your molding is off. You have
It's almost like it's really hard to make something like the Hunter really, really tiny.
Yeah. There is a McFarlane Chamberlain toy that was made, like, years and years ago, that it is now selling for, like, $300 online, if it's sealed. But it's Chamberlain from the movie, and movie Chamberlain's clothes weren't really that cool to buy. Like, he was literally in like, sheets. I want the one... Yeah, I want the one from the TV show. But yeah, overall, the show is fucking amazing. I'm actually really glad I got Daniel into it, because it's really hard to find stuff that he will, like, get into nowadays, because there's just so much on his plate.
There's so much I haven't seen that I've effectively given up watching anime.
Yeah.
I have given up watching anime. Because if I try to, I'd never get anything done.
Dad, can I give you an anime I guarantee will be an easy watch for you?
What was it?
Hunter x Hunter. Ah!
Bitch, go watch One Piece, all of it.
You know what? I tried watching it, and mind you, I'll tell you this right now, people. There's a website called One Pace, PACE, where it is cutting out all of the filler and only putting in the arcs that are in the manga. So if you want to watch One Piece, you still have like 500 and something episodes.
Yeah, I was about to say, look, there's like 900 episodes, you still have 500.
Yeah.
I don't care if you cut out like a lot of the fat, there'd still be 500 fucking
but I'm
full-length episodes, mind you.
But I'm saying, go ahead and watch that if you want. With me, I'm reading the manga. I feel like I can do 900 chapters rather than 900 episodes easier. It's doable. I mean, I caught up to 7 Deadly Sins, and that's like 330 chapters. Oh wait, no, 350 by this point. But yeah, what I didn't say was when we first started off watching this show, I was literally sitting Daniel down and like watching it with him. Like we saw the first 7 episodes together.
Yeah, and then I saw the final 3 here.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't want to wait too long to get your thoughts on the final few episodes, and I'm really glad you did say what you said, how it felt like it was a lot of build-up to a sequel, because this is something I don't understand. Just a day ago, they interviewed Jason Isaacs, the voice of the Emperor, and he flat out told Sci-Fi that this series was envisioned to be 1 season and that would set up the movie. And I'm like, no, no, there was
what? No.
there's so many inconsistencies.
Yeah, no, you can't do that.
Yeah.
That's illegal.
Yeah, you gotta explain, how did all of the Gelfling die? How did the shard of the crystal end up with the character it ended up with? Like, at the end, it has the main characters holding the crystal. It doesn't make any sense. And in the movie, they were still using the sun to siphon energy from the crystal to stay young. And the feeding off the essence was like the only thing we do if we ever find a Gelfling, because, we drink those fuckers to oblivion.
Oof.
But, yeah, I cannot believe the fact that they told Jason Isaac, no, this is 1 season, because a few weeks ago, and mind you, a season 2 has still not been greenlit, which, god damn it, but the writers of the first season came out and said, we were originally going to tell this in 6 episodes, they had us expanded, and now we have enough for at least 1 more season. And then that is probably all we have unless they want us to keep going. So, yeah, F, get your facts straight. But anyway, that's about it for the show. We did a 2-hour show, huh? 4 o'clock, I think we started.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna go home and edit this. Probably gonna buy the soundtrack for Dark Crystal and Mandalorian to put.
They sell that?
Yeah, the Mandalorian, you can just go to iTunes and buy it, and I think the Dark Crystal's up there. I hope it is. If not, I'll just buy the theme to the TV show, because if there's one more thing I could say good about the show, the music kicks ass. This is the composer from Spider-Verse. Hey people, turns out we had another breaking of audio, so we did not have the outro. So again, just to fill in, that was Dan, and I'm Danny, and we'll see you next time. Bye.